Welcome to episode number 1 of the Phil and Will Show. And this is going to be a show about just about anything you want. Will and I are going to be talking about whatever topic comes to mind and the hot topics, whatever's pressing in our universe. And if you have anything you want to talk about, throw it in the comments over here. Tonight, we kind of know where we're going to go a little bit, but, you know, we're open to riff and talk about whatever anybody wants to hear us talk about. Will, what's going on?
What's going on, Phil? Yeah, I think we should just say like the whole premise and point of this show is that you've been doing the Survivor podcast for what, like 9 years now, or a really long time, and Survivor Specialist has been a Survivor podcast. Part of the rebranding and heading into 2024 is that we're going to talk about more than just Survivor. There's more things to talk about. So we're going to get together once a week and just talk about things that we like to talk about. We've mentioned that we love sports. We'll talk a little bit about that. We love reality TV. We'll talk about that and whatever else comes up. So like Phil said, always open to topics, suggestions, questions, all that fun stuff. So Phil, what do you want to start with? This is episode 1. And honestly, we'll figure this out. Like, this is the first time we're just kind of riffing on anything, and we'll see how it goes. It might be really bad, but I think we'll get better as we go through it, and we'll figure it out along the way, and we'll use your help. But Phil.
Yeah, they always say don't leave your co-host out to dry, but if this is going to be bad, it's going to be Will's fault. It's not going to be my fault. We're gonna build this thing though. I have to throw that little dig at you there, but no, this will be good. And like I always say, nobody really knows what the future of Survivor holds. So the last thing I want to do is be sitting here at season 50 and Jeff decides he's going to hang up the Spurs, and then I turn and I look and I say, damn, this podcast I was doing for 12 years really has nothing going now. So we have other interests, other things have been successful. And honestly, when we did the rebrand and I did the State of the Specialist, people started saying, we want sports talk, which was shocking. I didn't realize how many of our listeners actually care about sports, but that's not what we're going to start with. We'll talk about some sports stuff later on in the episode. But I want to start off with the Traitors, because the Traitors season 2 is coming out next week. And I just binge watched the Traitors season 1, and it's the first show that I've been binge watched in a really long time, at least from a reality TV perspective. I really have not been binging reality TV in a long time. So it was cool to finally sit down and find a show that I felt like was worthy of it. I had struggled through the challenge a season or two, didn't really like it. The Amazing Race is fun until it's not. I feel like that's the case with it. And I refused to watch Big Brother. But the Traitors really did it for me early on. But this game has some serious issues, and I think it's fun to kind of talk about what we're hoping for season 2, which is coming out a week from an hour from now.
Wait, didn't you watch House of Villains recently also? Did you binge
I did watch
that,
House
or
of
does that
Villains.
not count?
I know it's an it is. It counts. It counts.
But you didn't binge it. You kind of watched it live. Did you finish it?
I didn't actually finish it. No, sorry.
You got to finish it. That's the best show on TV right now, reality show wise. Yes, Traitors. Okay, I think what we should do, because maybe people are listening that haven't seen the Traitors before, is explain what it is, and also explain it to me, even though I've already watched the first season. It was just so long ago. I get the general premise, but kind of forget, like, I know there's the round table, and then they meet at night secretly. And I'm with you, where like I found myself really enjoying the show, especially like episode to episode. Like once one ends, I'm kind of like, I got time for one more. Like I kind of want to see what happens. I want to see who's gonna get caught here, or who's gonna get murdered. And that drive, that just very drive to see what's gonna happen next, is very strong in the show. I don't know if anything else is. Like, I don't know if even the cast is all that great in season 1. I think there's, a few standouts, and obviously it's like half reality celebrities and half people that are just kind of off the street. But format and stuff, like the challenges and the games, I thought some of them were good, but like, why are we even doing them? Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about it, but just, can you give me a reminder, and anyone who's like thinking they're going to watch the show or check out season 1, just to kind of give us an overview?
Yeah. So I'll give an overview of the show, and I'll talk about what makes it pros and what makes it cons. And the first thing I want to address here before I even talk about the show or before I talk about the premise, is exactly what you just said, where I would watch one episode at a time with this. Like if I had to stop and go do something, I'd watch one episode at a time, because I was always stopping an episode 5 minutes into the next episode, because at the end, I always wanted to know what the cliffhanger was going to be. So I'd then watch the first 5 minutes of the next episode to find out what the cliffhanger is, and then I would go do whatever it was that I had to do. So it does have a really good element of that. So essentially what this game is it's werewolf, it's mafia. Any of those games, if you ever played them, where you have a group of people, there's 20 of them. There's actually going to be 21 for the new season. I wonder why they made the jump one person. Maybe we can figure that out. But they went from 20 to 21 people, and there are 3 people who are not good guys. They're traitors. And everybody is trying to figure out who those traitors are. Those traitors get to murder somebody every night. And then there's a banishment ceremony every day as well, where that at that ceremony, everybody votes. And whoever gets the most votes is out of the game. They reveal whether they're a traitor or they are a faithful. The problem with this game, so that's the premise. The problem with this game is that it needs to fit 10 episodes of television. So, unlike in a regular game of Mafia or Werewolf, they need to drag this out and make sure it gets down to a smaller number of people. So, season number 1 started with 3 traitors. They played really well. None of them were found for a really long time. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of the show, at final 8, one of them got found. And then at final 8, rather than it being 6-2, they had already planned, I guess, to make it so that another person could be recruited as a traitor, which is very similar to the hourglass twist, in my opinion, where it's something you're always going to say yes to. You're almost never going to say no because then you know the traitors are going to kill you. But so now it's 5-3.
Wait,
And
you're really comparing adding a traitor to the
no,
hourglass? I feel like that's
I'm not saying it from a broken mechanism. What I'm saying it is it's something nobody's going to say no to. That's what I mean. Like
right. But at
yeah.
least it's the traitors selecting who they think would be best to join them and who they have a relationship with and would fit their, group as
Yeah.
there's only 2 traitors left. We need one more person. And yeah, they're going to say yes every time, but at least it's a choice from players in the game on who that goes to.
But the problem is with the show, and I wonder if this will change in season 2, they don't know how many traitors there are.
Yes.
So that is a huge problem. And then the fact that at final 8, they actually have it down to 6-2. The odds are so bad for the faithful to win anyway. And then you get it down to 6-2, and it seems like things are going well. Then you do this twist that nobody's going to say no to, and it makes it 5-3. You never come out of that twist with it still being 6-2 unless you get somebody who really doesn't understand the game. So it goes to 5-3, and then the faithful have to figure out exactly who the traitors are. The one added element of this game that is interesting is the traitors have to split the pot with each other if they get to the end together. So we saw in season 1, Sari trying to get rid of the other traitors towards the end so she could take the $250,000 home with her by herself. But this to me feels like the type of game when it's on reality television, when it's on Peacock, like it's going to be. The setup as it is now, with not knowing how many traitors there are, with really no rhyme or reason, like the faithful shouldn't know, it's pretty hard for the faithful to win this game. And I feel like the traitors are almost always going to, based on the fact that traitors will keep being added because this needs to go for 10 episodes.
Yes. The whole game is skewed way too far in the favor traitors' hands. And that I was hoping at the end that I don't know, there'd be some way of like getting information about, or even in the middle of the game. Like they get no information. There's not, and they do these challenges, and you would think these challenges would be like, let's see if we can reveal who's a traitor and who's not, but they're just like fighting towards a like group. They're trying to build a pot of money through these challenges. Is that correct, Phil, if I'm remembering correctly?
And they kept trying to say, yes, that is correct, but they kept trying to say that traitors might not work as hard, but the traitors are building up the same pot because they get the same pot of money that the faithful get. So it doesn't make sense not to try.
Exactly. It's like, okay, everyone's going to try the same because everyone's playing for the same pool of money. So what does this pool of money matter? And if you've ever watched The Mole or any of these other shows, they're always going to let you win that money back at the end to like whatever it was supposed to be anyway, and it really has it has no point really. Like you always can. They're not going to let the winner of the show win $10. Like if they failed all the challenges and there's no money, they're going to be like, all right, you get one more chance, $10. It's like you're always going to get it back. The Mole was great, especially the old Mole. The Netflix one was okay. I think it kind of took itself a little too seriously. I don't know if you watched that, Phil,
I watched the
but
OG Mole. I didn't watch the Netflix
the
one.
Mole, yeah, with Anderson Cooper, that
Yeah.
made sense because it was like everyone's playing for this prize pot, but the Mole isn't. Like the Mole is just like part of production. Like they're literally
Mhm.
an actor. They're part of the show, and they're trying to mess with you.
Mhm.
Um, and they have a reason to be like, yeah, I want to sabotage this.
Yeah.
But even that, even in the Mole and even in the Netflix one, you're still like, okay, if you're the Mole, you wouldn't do this, you wouldn't do that, and it is a part of production, and that feels a little icky. Like it's interesting. I don't know. So I don't think the Mole gets it perfect either. But this makes almost no sense. Like
Yeah.
the challenges should be about like, okay, one of the traitors has brown hair. Like if that can come out, if the group can earn information about the traitors, then the traitors are now incentivized to sabotage because they don't want information about themselves coming out. You're
I
about
think
to say
another
something.
good one, and I was just thinking about this is, they'd always walk under darkness, in their with their cloaked hoods and everything like that. If you win one of these challenges, if you go in rather than getting a shield like they get later in the game, maybe you get to peek out the window and you get to see how many there are. And not necessarily like you're still so far away that you're not going to know, but you can see, oh, there's 3. So now I can confidently say that there are 3 because any information you reveal is going to be second guessed because people are going to think, are they overplaying? Are they underplaying? Whatever it is. But,
Or are they a traitor? Like if I
or are
come
they
out
a
and say,
traitor?
"Hey, I got this advantage last night, or I found it. There's 3 traitors." They could be like, "All right, well that guy's lying. Like Will's being a traitor."
Yeah.
Like, and
I
that's
want to
what I
throw,
do like. Like everyone is up in the air. Like you really don't know, but you need to have something to go off of other than just like vibes. Like when you ask anyone, "Why do you think that person's a traitor?" It's like, "Yeah, I just don't. They're vibes." It's all based on just like really intangible feelings that the audience can't really experience. So
yeah. And I want to throw this. Sandy P said, yeah, in my opinion, the traders format really didn't let the faithfuls play the game because the traders didn't get any incentives to sabotage in the challenge. So the faithfuls just basically had to guess from nothing. And that's 100% true. And that was a problem the entire time because, yeah, of course they all get along with Suri. Suri has never played a season of Survivor where she didn't get along with everybody out there. And so she's going to get along with everybody. You're going to like her, but that she didn't pick being a traitor. So her personality is irrelevant to really what's happening in this game.
yeah, and I doubt they actually randomize it once they pick it too. So then you're trying,
Not
then what
random.
the players are really doing, they're gaming it based on who they think who they think the show will pick as the traitor. That is the most information you have to go on, and that cannot make TV. You can't have an interview if I'm on the show and be like, well, I'm looking at, okay, well, Sandra and Parvati are here. I'm betting those are 2 survivor villains. I think one of them has to be the traitor, right? Like they're not going to, I would say definitely not both, but definitely not neither. So one of them is. And that would be my interview by maybe explaining this is my thought process because that's how I think the show would select who the traitor is. That's not going to make TV. So now I have to say, I don't know, Parvati, she's been a villain. I'm getting bad vibes. And that
Mhm.
I don't know, it's the same story every time. And we're not adding to it as we go. Because then you're banishing people. In 90% of the time you're banishing someone, guess what? They're a faithful. So it's like, okay,
Yeah,
all you're learning, the information you're learning is about people who are already out of the game. So
exactly.
yeah, sure. I get you're one step closer to like process of elimination, but how fun is that?
And I
And
want
again, I'm kind of like ripping on this, but I enjoyed watch. That's the funny thing. I really enjoyed watching the show, despite how broken the game is.
no, and I think so. I want to mention one thing about how easy it actually was to predict who the traders were in this first season. And I want to just look, Quentin and Andy, I don't know anything about them. I don't know what their post game stuff and everything is. But I will say for them to end this game and not think that production was going to make one of the female returnees a traitor or one female in general a traitor is insane. So if you look at this, and this is something that they can't do for season 2 or it's way too predictable. In season 1, there were 2 people from Big Brother. One was a man and one was a woman. There were 2 people from Survivor, both were women. So what do? They take the guy from Big Brother and one of the women from Survivor, and then they take a newbie. There were no other shows that had 2 people from their show. So they
Right.
literally took, there was only
And
one guy that could be chosen from those, and they took it. And then they took a woman from Survivor, and then they took they took Christian, who was a big personality, which Christian's the hardest one to find there. I understand not wanting to think that it was Suri, but it was so easy. And when I look at next season, right, when I look at what's happening on Friday, you have 2 Big Brother players, you have 2 Survivor players, and you have Marcus Jordan and Larsa Pippen, who are dating in real life, right? Or dating, married. I have no idea. But they're together in some way. Are we just going to go right down that line and it's going to be 2 women? It's got to be 2 women. So you're going to take Dan, you're going to take either Sandra or Parvati, and you're going to take probably Larsa Pippen, because you need to have 2 women at this point, because they did 1 woman last time and 2 men. Am I overthinking that, or would that be the logic that you'd go into this next season with?
I think you're pretty. It's funny. I had even forgot. Now I'm thinking Stephanie was on that season also. And so what I had just said about like Parv or Sandra being one you'd already thought about, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's kind of, they can't do that, but at the same time, they can't really not do that. Like you can't. I feel like you can't go to that show, have Sandra and Parvati, and then make neither of them a traitor, because then it's like, aren't we wasting our like villains that we just cast from like Survivor? Don't we want to see them be lying and mischievous the whole time? But then if you make both of them, that's certainly way overkill. So then it's like, okay, now it's a 50-50 on who you think it is. And hey, maybe they've tweaked the game. Maybe they don't start as traitors. Maybe there's 1 traitor to start and they need to build their faction as they go. And if they do certain things and challenges, they're able to add more people. But then it's also weird because, like you mentioned, towards the end, it's like if you're a traitor, you don't really want more traitors, because then you're sharing the money that many ways. So I don't know. I remember distinctly like being like, this is so unfair and broken, but I still like watching it. That's my overall take. And I don't know. I think we go to season 2 open mind. Hopefully they made some changes. But yeah, as it stands, I'd probably still watch it though. Like I'm not sitting here saying I'm not watching it.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I mean, we're gonna do podcasts about this. We'll do recaps and like all that stuff. Like I'm very much looking forward to next Friday. And I want to talk about the pros here. The biggest pro of this show is that it starts and ends with drama. You are getting 2 boots every episode, which makes it dramatic. You get the person who gets banished and you get the person who gets murdered. So you have 2 every episode. And even when there's not 2 people going home every episode, you are keeping my interest the entire time. In the middle, when they do the challenge, I'm on my phone and I'm looking up emails and I'm looking at other things. I don't, it's whatever. But when they are doing other stuff, when they are actually debating, I care. Now, another thing that was very predictable in season 1 that they need to not do in season 2 is you cannot make it so that the last person who walks into the breakfast room every morning is the second person who was in conversation to be eliminated. Every single time they did it for TV purposes and not for the room. As an audience, we were sitting there. We knew it was between 2 people. One of them wouldn't come in and one would be the last one to walk in the room. Immediately, you can eliminate that person from being a traitor every single time.
Explain to me why. I do remember this, and I remember thinking something this way. But yes, the way they revealed to the audience who got murdered is, yes,
they walk into the room. So, like, let's say, Will, you and I,
they walk in at breakfast.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, and so the second person for TV, they're not going to be a traitor because they're not going to kill off one of themselves.
Exactly. So it can never be a traitor who's the second one to walk in.
So if I'm going to play season 2, I'm like, yeah, the second person who comes in at breakfast is always a faithful, at least in the first season.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things there, and you can get away with that stuff in season 1. So we're not like sitting here assuming they haven't thought about this or haven't fixed some of these things. And, like any season 1 show, it's got to like figure out what works, what doesn't, and then make it better.
Yeah. And again, really strong start. I mean, I was into it, man. Like the first 5 episodes I ripped through. And then all of a sudden I said, wait a second, I see where this game is broken. How did the people who produced this show not see where the game was broken? I could just see how it was going to unfold. And now I look at the new season. Now I'm really looking at the cast. There's a couple people from the challenge on here. There's a couple people from Big Brother. There's a couple people from Real Housewives of Atlanta. There's a couple people from Survivor. So there are more options for the split. So you can't just assume. But the way that they're promoting this is like Sandra and Parvati are going to take each other on. And it's like, this is the one game, though, where that might actually not make any sense. And if you want that to be the drama, you have no choice but to make one of them a traitor and one of them not. So I wonder if by them going to 21 people, they're going to make it 4 traitors and maybe not have that part at the end where you get somebody. This way, maybe people can grab a traitor a little bit earlier on and feel better about themselves. Like, I don't know.
I think adding traitors during the game, that was interesting. Like, that's one of, to me, the more interesting parts. And I think if the people playing always know like roughly how many traitors there are, like if it's either 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, I don't know. I think that helps the game, especially at the end. Like for the end, when you're trying to figure out, like when you play werewolf or mafia and you like are at that last stand. And Phil, we used to play werewolf all the time. Like you often know, or resistance, like especially like when you're playing resistance, you know exactly how many good guys and bad guys there are. If you're playing with 7 players, you have 3 people that are bad who are spies, and you have 4 resistance members who are good. And you're trying to figure out that through the entire game. I guess werewolf, they do it a little differently because it's like you have the deck and then like some cards don't get dealt. So like there could be no werewolf in the game, which is always fun. But I think just for this, like if it's like for the prize money in the championship and like the glory of winning, like I don't want to spoil season 1, but the winner of that season, it's not like you're not like, wow, they really kicked out. It's like they kind of just got handed the prize and the title.
No. The winner kicked ass on that season. The
winner kicked ass for sure, but you're not leaving that with like, wow, they really overcame adversity and
they didn't
really
have
play
to
that hard.
They didn't
like,
have
you're
to.
really not. It's yeah. So
it's just they didn't have to, and that helped.
Correct me if I'm wrong. There's no like house reality in this. Like I know they're them talking and they walk and they have the breakfast thing, but like I don't think they're actually living in that house. Like we never see anyone like sharing bedrooms.
They say they're going to
like,
bed there.
Yeah, well, okay. I know they're saying that.
But where else would they go? I mean, they look pretty isolated there in Scotland. Yeah, but I'm saying, like, how far away do you think the nearest hotel is? It seems like they're pretty isolated.
I'm sure you can, like, there's a hotel 10 minutes away, and they go to their hotel rooms. Because having, whether that castle actually has 20 bedrooms or, like, enough beds and bath, I just feel like we'd see on all these shows, on all these house shows, you see people waking up in the middle of the night having meetings. You have IR cams in all the rooms. You have robo cams, and you have scenes of people like getting ready, brushing their teeth. And it's like everyone's comes in the morning so perfect picturely, like dressed in makeup. And it's like we have there's really no interesting conversations while they're doing their makeup. Like I just kind of think that they're definitely not spending the night there.
I think that the problem though with this show is because overnight somebody gets murdered, they aren't together talking to each other before they actually come down to breakfast for the reveal. So that's why there's no conversations. There really are no interesting conversations because otherwise that would reveal who didn't get murdered the night before. So every time they go to sleep, somebody is getting eliminated.
You could have people up at like 2 a.m. having a chat.
They can't let them because then that reveals who the traitors are.
No, and then the traitors are supposedly getting up at like 4 a.m. or I don't know what time they show. But I'm just saying, if they were living together for real, we would see some scenes of them living together for real, and we don't. I'm gonna Google it right now.
Google. I'm curious.
Traitors actually sleep in the castle.
Because I'm curious if it's easier for them to maintain them all. Like if they go to a hotel, do they have a production assistant sitting outside of every door to make sure that people don't leave their room?
Probably not every door, but the hallway. Yeah, you have a hallway monitor.
Because all that takes is
none of us stayed in the castle.
Yeah, there you go. Sandy Beach. They don't stay in the castle at night. That's lame. You have this giant castle.
The contestants actually all stayed at a hotel at the Inverness Airport. I'm guessing the Marriott Courtyard.
Well, that makes it a little bit easier because they could probably get them like a room on every floor or something so that if they do even come out.
It's not that crazy difficult to do. I guess from a production point, it's like, how do we make sure we get these? Everyone has to get on the bus to the hotel at the same time, go to the rooms, lock them up, pull the traitors out, then go back to the castle to shoot or maybe they have a set somewhere else. But yeah, I just remember watching it, be like, yeah, there's no way they're staying there.
Yeah, Isaac says the UK host said they're in individual residential situations off site. What's really funny though, thinking about this, is like they show the scenes of people laying in bed and like pouring themselves water, and that just makes it even funnier of like the built-in illusion of that.
Of
Even though
course,
they're
you have
not,
to do it. Like, you're not
yeah,
going
it's
to
just funny.
actually show them like taking a production shuttle to a hotel. But yeah,
Dude, that hotel, $62 a night on hotels.com. If it's at Courtyard Marriott, we could go stay there
I'm
for
sure.
the
I'm sure they
entirety of
take it
filming.
over. They should. I'm sure they take it over during a season. Especially if it's $62 a night, Peacock can confront that bill and just make sure they have that hotel all to themselves.
Yeah, if they can't, that's a problem. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm looking forward to season 2 of the Traitors, and we'll be podcasting that starting, I mean, next week at some point, because the first 3 episodes drop on Friday. So I don't think we'll be doing Friday night. Maybe we will. I don't know, but probably more like Saturday or
Wait,
something.
Friday tomorrow?
No, January 12th.
Okay, 3 episodes.
And then it's
Yeah,
one per week.
I didn't
every
watch
Thursday.
it. Okay, so then it becomes a weekly show.
Then
Fun.
it's easy.
Fun,
Yeah.
Phil. I'm excited to do it. I like the show, and it's fun. It's a fun thing to like rip on, be like, this makes no sense.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. We are going to make our first pivot into the world of sports because that's what we want to do and people are asking for it. And there's no better time right now to talk about sports than after college football season's essentially over and when the NFL is going into its most pointless week of the season. So here we are
That's true.
to break down all the pressing issues of the NFL. But I have to say, because as a diehard Detroit Lions fan, it's something that I've wanted to. You can only tweet so many things before you're like, I need to get on and like yell about that. But as a diehard Detroit Lions fan, it's really hard to keep watching the NFL and keep watching them get hosed time and time again, and to watch the ref who completely blew the call then get put on another primetime game the next week. It's such a slap in the face. And the NFL is going to problem, man.
I thought the ref was getting punished and like isn't going to be able to do the playoffs anymore. That's the
Maybe he won't do the playoffs, but he's literally doing the Steelers-Ravens game where if the Steelers win, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. I know that nobody for the Ravens is playing, but it's still ridiculous.
Yeah, officiating is pretty bad across the NFL, but honestly across like all sports. I guess on this play in particular, devil's advocate here, Phil, they do send like 3 linemen out to run at the ref, and they like, I mean, that's tricky. Who's reporting, who's not, and then they have to line up. And I don't know. I'm not like, I just wish it was review. I honestly wish it was reviewable. This is something, and I'll say this a lot across all sports. And I get it. I do not want to slow the game down. I hate when we review everything. A lot of thoughts on that. But when you can just look at a camera angle of something and be like, oh, that happened, and everyone watching can see it. And this goes for any sport, basketball, baseball. Like, and it's just super clear and obvious. Like, why can't we immediately change it? They've tried to do this with like the Sky Judge in the NFL. They've done it a little bit better where someone's like, hey, let's just flip that. But that needs to be like a case for everything, because as cameras get better, as replays get better, I think officiating hasn't gotten worse. I think officiating is a really hard job, and like we are just seeing now all the plays in more detail. We have every angle. We have 4K TVs. We're watching every game now too. We have Red Zone. We have like every streaming service. So it feels like it's worse because we are so focused in on every little detail. We're betting on everything more as a country. So every little thing matters, and it's just getting heightened. But I think refs have always kind of like, it's a really hard job. And so I just want a camera, like someone to be watching the camera angle and be like, oh, that was definitely PI. Like, I don't care. You didn't throw the flag. That was 100% PI. I'm going to phone in and we're changing it. There's no challenge flag. There's no arguing back and forth. One referee is like, oh, I just got to see the replay. I know it's hard to call live. That was PI. Boom, send it in. All right, go ahead, Phil.
All right. So what I want to say with this is I'm not even look, the shit happens in these games. And really this game wasn't that important for the Lions. They'd already won their first division title since I was born. And they were like, it was already done. The difference between the 2 and 3 seed is a big deal because now if they win their first game, they got to go play in Dallas. But hey, they're gonna have to beat a team that's either beaten them or has Matthew Stafford as their starting quarterback. So the Lions still have their work cut out for them just to win a playoff game. So I'm not worried about that. I think what pisses me off the most though is on this in this instance, this wasn't a oh, I didn't see it. Like it's PI sometimes that's a subjective call. I didn't see the hands. I had a weird angle. Okay, so it didn't get called, but it should have. And that can change the outcome of a game. This was literally the guy he said was reporting eligible was 10 yards away from the play. And when you watch the replay of this, the referee stares directly at number 68 for the Lions, nods his head. So the referee made the mistake in this situation, which look, he's human. It happens. That's whatever. But what's pissing me off at this point is the referee made the mistake. And rather than the NFL ever holding a referee accountable, they're blaming the Lions and saying it's trickery. But the thing is, you're supposed to be trying to trick your opponents. The refs are supposed to know the rules well enough that they can't be tricked. And Dan Campbell said that he went through the play ahead of time with them and all of that. But here, again, it goes back to this. Mess up the play. Make a bad call. Refs are going to do that all the time. Refs need to be held accountable. At this point, referees are elementary school teachers. Sorry to insult any elementary school teachers here, but this is the thing. At this point, they're elementary school teachers. Once you're tenured, you do not care if your students learn another thing for the rest of their lives. You're going in and you're collecting your paycheck. You still might want to do it.
Elementary teachers get tenured. I think you're thinking of professors.
No. Public schools. Once you get tenured, my mom's tenured. My mom's a preschool teacher. She's tenured. Once you work at
you can get tenured at a preschool.
Yeah, once you work at a public school for a certain amount of years, you cannot be fired unless they have like real cause. And so that's essentially what referees are at this point. Referees are in there. There's nobody to back them up. So the NFL can't hold them as accountable because there's nobody behind them to take over. So they keep messing up and they get a slap on the wrist and they move on. And then the players and stuff get blamed every time. The referees, seriously, this is my last point. Referees need to start having press conferences. Stop hiding them. They are professionals too. And if people are going to lose millions of dollars on this, especially as gambling becomes a huge deal, the NFL needs to be more transparent because otherwise the NFL is going to fall apart through lawsuits alone if they don't start to become more transparent with this shit.
Yeah, I mean, press conferences, that's a lot to ask. And I get why they protect them. I don't know. I feel like they keep track of everyone's like records and who got the right calls and wrong calls. And they assign more high profile games, playoff games, Super Bowls. And like, I'm not sitting here saying like, I don't know if like the NFL, have they never fired a ref for just being a bad referee? Like I'm sure they probably have. Like if you have an official who just keeps getting calls wrong over and over, I'm sure they have. They're just like, I don't know these people's names. Like we don't know the referees that well. They try to keep them kind of in the background. They don't want them to be the forefront of the sport. I'm just in the boat where like, it's a tough job. Let's give every resource we have into making sure the call is as right as possible every single time. Like there's no reason with all the technology and resources and the amount of money these leagues make to not just like I watch a lot of basketball. There's a Warriors game, it was like a month ago, and Steph Curry shoots a layup off the backboard. I think it was against the Denver Nuggets actually, who are playing tonight. And forget who it was, just jumps up and it might have been Aaron Gordon. He blocks it after it hits the glass. Now this is it's very objective. Once the ball hits the backboard, you can't touch it. That's goaltending. And the ref just didn't call goaltending and Steph's complaining and he doesn't really, he made a big fuss and he does not like break out and make a fuss.
Yeah, he's not LeBron.
Draymond. He's not Draymond. And it's like there's such an obvious call but there's not, and then you show the replay and it's like, oh yeah, the ref missed the call and there was no discourse. There was no, oh, let's go look at it. But they will look if someone's foot was on a line for a 2 or a 3. We'll go back and we'll change the score. Why can't you say, okay, it's third quarter, we hit a timeout, let's just go look at it? Or like the whole world knows it. Twitter knows it. They don't do it with goaltending. They don't do it enough where it's like get the score, get the plays right. Again, we don't need to stop the game, especially if it's like NBA and it's the third quarter. Like, knowing if you're down 8 or down 6 isn't going to change what play you're calling on offense. Like, that's not how the sport works. So next time out, let the ref get phoned in. Hey, we looked at it. It was goaltending. Count the bucket. Shit like that. That's what, like, again, PI. You see it. We get the replay like 5 seconds after the play is over. You literally see the DB going like this. The receiver's got his hands up complaining. And then we get the graphic and we are seeing it right then. Guess who doesn't get to see that?
The ref.
The refs.
Yeah.
The refs who are officiating the game. The only people that have authority on what happens on the field don't get to see it, but all of us get to see it. It's like a slap in the face to them that they are just shoving the clearest views into the fans, and it makes them look that much worse. So I know it's a tough job. Give them the resources. Let people change calls. Like, it's so clear. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. And I, again, this just going back to this one specific Lions example. At first I was like, okay, he didn't report. That's a mess up. And, you know, the Cowboys fans are some of the, if there's any Cowboys fans over here, I apologize. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about all the other ones, but there are some dumb Cowboys fans out there. My goodness.
Oh, there's dumb fans for every team.
Yeah,
every
but
team has dumb fans.
Cowboys fans need their season end to throw their Lakers jerseys on like immediately. Like, it's so bad how they get with this stuff. And so there's no reasoning at all, right? And what bothered me with this play in particular is this was a blatant, this was not a judgment call. This was not a, well, I didn't see it. This was a blatant number 68 went up to the ref, said, I am reporting. The ref nodded at him and then went over and told people the wrong number. There's nothing more the Lions could have done. And this is almost like ref interference more than anything. And that's what bothers me about it is the Cowboys will say, oh, we would have defended them. It wouldn't have mattered anyway. Okay, but I've seen a lot of tackle-eligible plays where they're standing in the end zone completely alone. There's no guarantee you would have covered them. They probably would have. I mean, they had pretty good coverage on that play, not thinking Taylor Decker was eligible. But at the same time, you can't penalize the Lions for this when they literally did everything they were supposed to, and it's clear as day. They released audio. I saw something today. They released audio for the game for like different, like for like a TV show. I don't know, Inside the NFL or whatever it is. But they won't release the audio of what's happening with the ref because they're clearly hiding that the ref is saying yes. It's insane. But you can't do that when gambling, when you are partnering with gambling companies, because you are going to get sued if this type of stuff keeps happening. It won't happen right now, but you'll see a change in the landscape of the NFL. Everybody thinks the NFL is too big to fail. Everything's too big to fail until it starts to fail. And these are the types of things when people are putting hundreds, thousands, millions of dollars on the line in these things, you can't have this happening because you lose the trust, you lose the brand, and then people start taking out class action lawsuits saying you're rigging the games, you're tampering, and you're not revealing information to the public.
Yeah. What was worse too about this, I don't know if you saw it, the next day ESPN puts an article out that was like, oh, the refs missed a call like on a trip against the Lions. And that stuff pisses me off too. It's like they're trying to do a cover-up job and they think
there were 3 holds on the 92-yard touchdown to CeeDee Lamb that they didn't call. So that 92-yard touchdown wouldn't have happened either if they called those holds. Like, it's all stupid.
Yeah. And I know we're talking about missed calls, but it's like just going back and picking out one thing to try to be like, oh no, that game, the outcome didn't change. The Cowboys were always going to win if it was called correctly. When it was like such a point blank, objectively, they did not report the right person. I hate that. That's a bad look. And it just feels like and I don't think these sports are rigged. I think rigging these, there's too much money to be made from not rigging them. I know the whole joke with the script and the NFL, that was their ad this year, which was like really that was kind of rubbing it in. I thought they probably shouldn't have done that.
I agree.
Like that was like, hey guys,
again,
but there are a lot of it does feel like a lot of these games are like, man, like that ref is actually he's making every single call, borderline call. They're all going one way if he did have the under. Like it feels like that for some of these games where it's like, man, every single 50-50 break is going either to one team or to like make one outcome happen. And maybe that's just like, hey, there's a ton of these games played. There's 12
Yeah.
games, 13 games every week. So things are going to happen. But yeah, some of them do feel a little shady. I'm not saying it's rigged. It's just, hey, there's a lot of human bias and there's a lot of money floating around.
Why does it always go against Detroit? Because it's a small market team that nobody gives a shit about.
Didn't Detroit, didn't they get a call earlier this year?
No,
you would know. Or you probably forgot
happened.
about it.
Never happened. Never happened. All I remember is blatant PI against the Cowboys in the playoffs that wasn't called. They threw the flag, then picked it up. The Calvin Johnson rule. I mean, there's just rules named after Lions players. That's how bad we get hosed over and over. The reason nobody knows what a catch in the NFL is anymore is because of Calvin Johnson.
Yes. Catches in the NFL are very tricky. I think they should go to 1 foot. I've been saying this. I think go to 1 foot. Like, you want higher powered offense? Great. Like, that will make it easier on the offense. Plus, you get more ridiculous, like, one-handed grabs, like going out of bounds. I think that would just be, and then there's just one less variable you need to look at when like going frame by frame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think replays are easier if you only need to get 1 foot inbounds. Not that that's always the question. It's usually like the bobble, did he survive the grind, the possession, all that. I just think if you want more points without like changing how people play defense, like we see that in the NBA right now. I know Steve Kerr had a quote about this where he's just like, yeah, you can't play defense in the NBA anymore. That's like we're seeing like regular season games. They're in like the 120s, sometimes the 130s, 140s. Yeah. And these are just not even overtime. They're just
the Pacers
like
weeknight.
Ridiculous. Yeah. And I remember as a Warrior fan, like growing up, you would go to games and we sucked. The Warriors sucked growing up. I know a lot of people hate the Warriors, Steph Curry bandwagon, blah, blah, blah. We were a terrible franchise basically until Steph Curry came. Mm-hmm. Side note. So you would go to a game and the special was a Taco Bell brand special. It was if the Warriors scored 100 points, you get a free chalupa. That was, 100 points was like a milestone. That would happen in 1 in every like 8 games, or else Taco Bell would go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Now that happened, every team scores 100 every game. And it's honestly not as fun to watch. And they call too many fouls. They don't let the players play proper defense, and it changes the game. I think in the NFL, without changing the way you play defense, just make that one thing for the offense. Like do the 1 foot catch. I would love to see that.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. And I mean, I don't think they'll do it, but I do think like, so either. It's one of those things where you could try to make that change. I think offense is already too easy at this point because, I always used to joke that if there's an automatic first down penalty, there should be an automatic third down penalty to offset that. Where like if you commit a penalty on first down, you lose a down and it goes to third because there's so many now illegal contacts, a 5-yard penalty, but it's automatic first down. If it's 3rd and 25 and you commit illegal contact, they get an automatic first down. That's crazy. So it's already so easy to play offense that I don't think they'll change that. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. It is what it is. And, Logan Slater down here asked, how about the Lions still going for the 2-point conversion from the 7-yard line? I don't mind it because at this point, like I said, they're in the playoffs and they're either the 2 or the 3 seed.
Okay. I've heard this come up too. I think this is worth discussing that basically everyone has said going from it is like the analytics say it's like you lose by, I don't know, decreases your win probability by like 20% or something. Yeah. Like that it was just a terrible call. And right when this was happening, it was like, oh, and this is why he went for the 2 in the first place. You don't want this to go to overtime. You've already won
on the road.
You have
Dallas.
A playoff spot.
Yeah.
You don't want to risk anyone getting injured. Winning one more game, what's that going to do for you? You really don't think the Niners are going to beat the Commanders? Like really? Like all the Niners needed was one more win in order to make sure the Lions couldn't get the 1 seed. And then I guess there's a little bit back and forth with like the 2 versus 3 with Dallas, but you're going to be 2 or 3 anyway. So yeah,
I think Dallas is going to lose in the first round of the playoffs anyway because I think they're going to get the Rams. I think the Rams are going to lose this week, and I think they're going to drop down to the 7. And because the Rams aren't playing anybody because they know they're either the 6 or 7, they don't really care which seed they get. And I think that
the Niners aren't playing anybody. The Niners aren't playing anybody either.
Yeah, but the Niners not playing anybody is so much better than the Rams not playing anybody. Did you watch Brett Rippon try to throw the football against the Green Bay Packers earlier this season? They lost 20-3. It was horrific. I think the other thing is like Green Bay could still lose to Chicago, so whatever.
Oh,
But
definitely.
if Green Bay beats Chicago, Green Bay gets the 6, the Rams get the 7. At this point, with the way both teams are playing, I take the Rams to beat the Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs.
I don't know. I think that'd be tough. I would way rather see
You're a
Lions
Niners fan. You
Rams.
hate the Rams, dude. It's whatever.
I would just rather see Lions Rams
Oh, my heart can't
as the
take that.
matchup. That
I
would
can't
just be
take it ever.
so. It
Lions
would be
haven't had a home
so
playoff
good.
game since 1993, and their first home playoff game since 1993. You're
Stafford.
gonna have to play against Stafford. No, I can't do that. I can't do that.
I mean, that's what you want.
No, I can't. I can't do it. All right, here's a question. This will segue into our next thing here. So Jonathan asks, we also need Miami Hurricanes talk. Who wins a championship first between the Lions and Hurricanes? Do you think Miami will ever be good again? Is Mario the coach to do it? The Lions are going to win one first just because Miami is never, ever, ever, ever going to be relevant for the rest of our lives. I don't care what anybody says. They're done.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I actually think it's probably closer than you think because you're a Lions fan. You won a division. Great. You think I mean, that is the first step onto winning a Super Bowl. But Miami, I don't think it's as far away as we might, think. The rosters are changing. Like every 4 years, you have a completely new set of guys, and even year to year with the transfer portal, like all it takes is literally getting like 1 5-star QB, some good people in the transfer portal, having like a top 10 recruiting class for which we've had a top 10 recruiting class every year since Mario has started recruiting.
He's a great recruiter and a terrible coach.
He's a great recruit. Yeah, he needs to hire someone to coach football, but he should still recruit. I just think like college football is so like it can turn on a dime. Like look at Florida State. Like Florida State hired Mike Norvell. They were losing. They lost to like Jacksonville State on a Hail Mary and the FCS team. Just a brutal. That was like what, like 2 seasons ago, maybe even last season.
Long ago. Yeah,
like very recently, everyone was like, "Oh, Mike Norvell, he's not the guy to do it." They missed a bowl for the first time in like their like 50 years or 30 years, something like that. And guess what? They were just went undefeated and won the ACC, should have probably been in the playoff. And so it can turn so quickly. Whereas the Lions are cursed and it will just never.
It's true.
I just don't know. Like winning a division, sure. As a Niners fan, I can tell you can win divisions. You can get to Super Bowls. Winning a Super Bowl, man, is.
When do you remember your last Super Bowl win? Honestly,
no.
You don't.
No,
right?
I do not. I only remember 2 Niners Super Bowls in my lifetime. One was in 2012 against the Ravens with Kaepernick, and the lights went out and all that. When Harbaugh was the coach, and Alex Smith was like, he should have been. That was his season, and he got hurt. Kaepernick was the backup. Started running all over the place. Everyone's like, "Whoa, a quarterback that can rush." This is 2012. People are like, "Huh, this is wow." We don't know how to defend this. Eventually, they kind of figured it out. And then we had the Chiefs Niners with Garoppolo in 20.
Yeah, where you guys won it.
19. We should have won.
I watched that with you.
No, I was in Hawaii.
Yeah, I know. I didn't watch it with you. I watched it with you in spirit. I remember watching that at the bar and being like, you were texting me being like, "Oh, it's over."
I texted you at halftime saying it was over. We're not going to win this game because we did not try to score at the end of the first half. I said, we are playing the Chiefs.
On the other side.
We're playing Mahomes. I'm like, why are we not being aggressive? We didn't call a timeout when we should have. We're going to get the ball back. Instead, we don't take a timeout. We let the clock run. We take a knee, go into the half. And it's like, you have to try just getting 3 points there. We win the Super Bowl. All you need is like two or three plays. We had time. We had timeouts. It was Kyle Shanahan, man. He is a great play designer, great play developer, great football brain. In terms of clock management, has got to be worse than Cristobal or James Frank or any of these guys, like any of these notorious clock buffoons. I mean, he's responsible for the 28-3 comeback. He was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons who continually would like throw the ball on like 2nd and 6. And it's like, dude, just run it and kill 40 seconds. You're up by so much in the Super Bowl. Why are you stopping the clock? And they'd snap the ball with like 11 seconds or 8 seconds left on the play clock while the time is right. Mike McCarthy, another great one.
Against the Lions, he threw the ball 3 times when they only needed to run it and use the Lions timeouts.
Well, yeah, they should have ran it at the end, and instead they go for a field goal. It's like if you just get a first down and take a knee, the game's over. So you're kicking a field goal, which yes, you get points on the board, but now you're giving the ball to the Lions, who can storm down the field. And guess what? The defense they played. So prevent defense, what it's supposed to prevent is big plays, and you give out the sides to the flats and to the sideline within like 10 or 15 yards. Goff is bombing like 20, 30 yards in the middle of the field, and they are wide open. That's not the type of defense you play. You cover those guys. You let the short, like a wheel route or an out route, just like the 5-yard routes. That's what you let up. Let them gain 10 yards, tackle them in bounds, kill the clock. That's what you're supposed to do. Even though I hate playing prevent defense, that defensive scheme to let the Lions just like march down the field like that easily, that was bad. Yeah, there's a lot of bad coaching.
Bad.
Not that I would do better, but it's fun to get mad at the coaching.
It is. And so let's jump over, because we talked about all that stuff. And I mean, we got McCarthy screwed up, and you got Adam Elzey who says Campbell was dumb for trying to go for 2-3 times. I mean, like I said, it didn't matter, so I don't mind it. But you mentioned earlier Florida State going undefeated, and I'm not going to get into the whole argument of if they should have gotten in, if they should have gotten in. I mean, we all know the bias is there. There's no denying it. The only people who say the bias isn't there are Alabama fans, like the bias, and ESPN, but the bias is there. But the thing is that I want to ask is, you have a 13-0 team that had their hearts ripped out from them and could not go and play in the playoffs. So what is their response to not play 25 players in their bowl game? How do you fix bowl season? Because right now, like, I know we're going to 12 teams next year. I know that's going to be a huge adjustment. We had 2 good college football semifinals. We did have 2 good games. They were both solid.
Really good weekend.
But Bama, in my opinion, shouldn't have been there. But then Florida State doesn't get in. And the reason why it's such a brutal snub and why ESPN and stuff is going to push so hard to get Bama in is because the other bowls outside of those 2 games mean absolutely nothing. How do you fix that? Like, what is the deal right now with college bowls?
It's you can't fix it anymore. So when the playoff was initially being talked about, I always, and this actually I think was on the table. There were college football writers. There were a lot of ideas pitched, and there was this one idea in the mid to late 2000s, like the aughts, I think, like around 2010, I want to say. And the idea was +1, which was play bowl season. So you have the Big Ten champ and the Pac-12 champ every year go play the Rose Bowl. You have the ACC champ play in the Sugar Bowl against the top 10 opponent. You have the Big 12 play in the Fiesta Bowl or right, the Cotton Bowl. Yeah. You get a West Coast team in the Fiesta Bowl and whatever. Then after you watch all those games with tradition and, just legendary crowds and pageantry and just New Year's Day and the whole, just the vibe of that's college football. I grew up watching bowl season. They were important. The players did not opt out. They cared. Play that out and then pick your 2 best teams to play in the national championships. Whoever won the Rose Bowl and whoever won the Sugar Bowl or the Cotton Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Peach Bowl, whatever it was, whichever one, or the Orange Bowl. And then have them play. Now, a better version of that, I think, would just be like pick 4 teams and have them play. Because then you've seen these are postseason games that weren't on the schedule. You've seen the whole season. They're playing in their traditional bowls. Then you do the playoff after. And now we're going to 12 teams. And yes, some of them are the New Year's Six bowls. But, I mean, the bowls, who cares? Now, like, even watching, like, Purdue and whoever they play, like, even that doesn't feel as important because, like, the whole like name of a bowl and bowl season has just lost all its meaning. So I was such a big fan of the +1, and even like doing a plus, just adding like a 4-team bracket after those would have been so ideal, but we didn't do that. We went to this silly thing in which you have 5 power conferences, only 4 spots. So this was bound to happen. Yeah. I don't really blame the committee all that much. I more blame the system that was in place. Like, I blame that there are 4 spots for 5 conferences. Like, that's the dumb part of this whole thing, which we got lucky with for however many years. But that's the bad part. Like, you could have had 5 really worthy teams, and one was you designed it in which one was always going to a conference champion of a Power 5 team was always going to get left out in the system.
Yeah, and I think that's why when people make the argument of we don't need to expand the college football playoff because we're just going to be arguing about who's 8 and who's 9 or who's 12 and who's 13, like we're just going to be making that same argument. The problem is though at that point, I don't really feel bad for the team that's 13. I don't really feel bad for the team that's 9. When you're doing just 4, college football, and this is why I was never a huge college football fan until I went to Miami, and then I only started to watch college football because I was writing about it and stuff like that. And you can get addicted to it, but I don't watch college football as religiously as I do the NFL because college football has the most broken postseason in the history of sports. It is the only sport. I'm telling you right now, I will wait for every single person here to tell me another sport. It is the only sport where you can win every single game on your schedule and not be eligible to play for a championship. It is the only sport. There is no other sport where if you win every game on your schedule, you can't play for a championship. It's the only one.
Yeah, I had a great answer, and then you went a little bit different with it. I was going to say, okay, you could argue that's why you hate it, and that's why you think it's stupid. I could also argue that's why I think it's the best sport ever because of the subjectivity to it and that it is a ranking system and that you do have 130 teams and they can't all play each other and there's no way to know. And you have Liberty who's undefeated. Oh, guess what? They just got spanked by Oregon. And I kind of feel bad for Oregon who had a really good season, just came up into this buzzsaw Washington team. And now their bowl game, their hopes, they have to go play this group of 5 team because of rule. We have to let one of them in when that team, they're undefeated. No, I know. I'm not like feeling bad they didn't make the playoff. I'm just saying like it's okay if you win every game. Like Liberty won every game. They shouldn't have been in the playoff. Like you can look at who you've played. You can use your eyes. You can use metrics. And I get people hate that, but it also is really fun to talk about. It's a conversation starter. And like there are other subjective sports out there. Like go watch like people jump off a diving board. Go watch the Olympics, figure skating.
But if you win figure skating, every competition,
but who's deciding?
you
someone's just looking at you. But someone's just looking at you and judging you based on subjective things with their eyes. That's how they judge it. That's what the
sport is. Football is not that sport because at this point, here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is what bothers me. Florida State this year, everybody always says with college football, every game matters. It's the best regular season. Literally they didn't have to play a game. They could have just not done the season. It would have been the same result. There was no reason for them to play the game. They never had a chance to go to the playoff. 0% chance from the start of the season. There's no reason to play.
Right. I'm with you there. I think it sucks. Again, I think the system sucks. How much I think I would have been way more pissed if this happened and Jordan Travis was fully healthy. Then it would be like, wait a second.
That would have been ridiculous.
That's messed up. And I almost feel like that could have happened where like they're like, we have to have an SEC team in the top 4. I don't know what happens in that scenario. I kind of fear that FSU gets left out in that case anyway. And Jordan Travis just gave them the excuse to be like, oh, now we can easily just. And honestly, the whole QB getting hurt, I think that sucks. It sucks for the other players. It sucks for the defense. The defense is really good. That's half the ball.
Defense, I'm going to tell you,
is playing defense.
They could have beat Michigan.
It sucks. Oh yeah, I think so. But it's like, are they? I don't know if they're going to be not without a quarterback, not without Jordan Travis. I don't think.
I mean, how good was Milroe? 116 yards passing?
No, at least he was, a dangerous athlete in the running game. Like he ran all over him. That's the only reason they were in the game in the second half because they stopped dropping back because he was getting sacked, couldn't read the pressure, and they literally changed their whole entire offensive scheme to do really quick throws so he couldn't get sacked or design run plays for Milroe. And then actually he kind of tore up Michigan there in the third quarter and fourth.
The thing is, though, like, so this is getting fixed, right? Like, if this was next year, FSU would have gotten a chance. They would have had an opportunity to play for a national championship as an undefeated team. So college football is removing this because Liberty also would have gotten in as the 12 seed. You don't want that game. Okay, great, but it's going to happen. And you know what? Like,
no, it's fine. And once every 5 years that the G5 team will have a major upset. Maybe they'll win 2 games. Yeah. I do still feel like the whole 12 team thing is like, oh, it's more exciting for fans of teams like if the Ole Misses of the world, the Penn States, the Oregons, Missouri. Now you're like, oh, we have a chance. I still think like the top 4 that the committee would have picked if, you know, it was like the current format, like those are the champion is gonna come from those 4 teams probably like 95% of the time.
I agree with that, but I think this year was an interesting year, and I mean, we talked about that a lot. This was a very compelling year because Oregon could have beaten anybody out there. I think that
Dude, Washington is good. I still like
I
Washington
Washington's going to
is
win the
now a
national championship.
yeah, they're a 4.5 point dog to Michigan.
Hammer them,
I
hammer them.
get their defense is very sus, but Penix is so damn accurate, and those receivers are Adunze is so good with his hands. I mean, I think Washington can beat anybody on any day. Now, Michigan has Michigan will be the best defense that Washington's faced all year,
Of course,
hands down.
but I
Hands
think
down.
it's funny. Washington's been overlooked pretty much this entire season, and I might not have had a great year betting, but Washington was the sure thing every week when they're underdogs against Oregon in that Pac-12 championship game. Take out Thor's hammer and just go to town because there was no doubt in my mind that was going to be a better game. Don't see, and that's where narrative, right? But who are the 2 teams playing for national championship? 2 undefeated teams. 2 teams that beat everybody, even when they were underdogs. I hate the whole argument of who would be favored, who wouldn't. It doesn't matter who would be favored. Why play the game then? Just go and do simulations of, they were favored by 3.5, so they win, move on. It doesn't happen in any sport. It doesn't happen. So, but all that being said.
Yeah, I hate the who would be favored as an argument. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid. But all that being said, they're fixing this problem. But bowl season,
they're fixing this fall. No,
right?
Bowl season will not, dude. Like as a kid, like you're home for the holidays, or even when we were in college, like going home, like coming back from Miami, going back to your family house, and like you don't have any school, your exams are over with, you're hanging out with your friends, and college football is just on all day. There are bowls. It's it's December 27th, and it's the 28th, and it's just all these bowls, and you're betting on them. And it's fun. And I feel like it's just because the playoff just draws so much attention and conversation and thought. Like you just don't like. I did not watch that many bowl games this year. And I'm like, it's like, and I want to say I missed it, but I didn't even miss it. I was like, man, I'm not even like sad I'm not watching this. I see I'm like checking the scores. I'm seeing the Pop-Tart thing. I'm like, that's fun. Like all the silly things about bowls and the silly trophies and the parties, and it's good for the players and the families. They get to travel, and they go to Disneyland. They go to a warm place. Usually that was always the idea. They go to a warm place in the middle of winter and play an exhibition football game against a team you never play.
Like
that's all really fun. Oh, and then now every city has a bowl. So now you're going to New York in a blizzard. We go to the Pinstripe Bowl like every year, it feels like. And I'm always like, should I go? I love New York, but I don't want to go. And I don't want to go fly out, sit in the cold, and watch us lose to Rutgers. Like I don't.
In a baseball stadium where the view is terrible anyway.
Yeah. I love bowl season, and I honestly, it's like, all right, it's done. I really think it's the death of bowl season is upon us, and especially when we get to 12. Like there's no one else is even going to care.
I'll say this, and this will kind of be the last thing because I don't want to go too much longer than an hour on this, but like I do think that the only way that they can really get people to play these games is with the NIL money. If they can get them and convince like, hey, if you play in your bowl game, you get such amount of money, or in your scholarship, it is stated that you have to play in a bowl game for it to be full or something. I think that's the only way they can do it. And at this point, there's so much money to be made with NIL, especially for those big name players. I'm talking the guys who are sitting out that like Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't play. He's going to be an early draft pick. He could make $1 million to play in a bowl game nowadays, though.
I don't think that's the issue, though. Like, did you not watch Ohio State versus who did they even play?
No, but the thing is, they lost
because they're not in the playoff. I couldn't even tell you who'd they play. US? No,
they were Missouri, right?
Missouri. That's right. I did actually watch the end of that game. That was pretty good. But like, you're not tuning in because Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't playing. You're not tuning in because it's not a playoff game. Because Ohio State and Missouri have no chance to win the NAC. You've been told the only thing that matters is the playoff. And so, like, I remember Jackson Smith and Jigba played in the Rose Bowl against Utah. And it was one of the best games. And I remember being like, oh, man, this was so good. It was like I think got like 3 touchdowns because like Garrett Wilson and Olave were sitting, and Smith and Jigba had one more year, so he's like the stud on Ohio State still. And like, what a fun game! And I know that's during the playoff, but even that, I feel like we're not going to see a lot of that anymore.
Yeah.
And even if you are, it's like I don't even feel compelled to like the Rose Bowl. I will always watch. That's always the one where it's like playoff or not. So much tradition. 2 p.m. on New Year's Day. That's always going to be on. But yeah, it's sad. We got 12-team playoff. That's all that's going to matter.
That's all that's going to matter.
Which is good for the sport in some ways, and then bad for the sport in other ways. And that's it. We're gonna love the 12-team playoff.
Well, and I mean, how many bowl games now? So think about this, right? Like the way they're doing is the top 4 teams get a bye, and then 5 versus 12, yada yada yada. So 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9. That's 4 bowl games. Advance, you get 4 more bowl games. You are now caring about 10 bowl games next year, or 11 bowl games. I guess it has to be 11, right? Because there's
are they even bowls when they get late, or
then I don't even know. But what I'm saying is you now care about 11 games after the conference championships. This year you cared about 2, and maybe you cared about your team playing in a bowl. The problem with the bowl season is it's not the small schools you have to worry about, it's the big ones. The small schools are playing hard because they went there to go 6-6, and they're pumped they made it to a bowl. It's the big schools that are we're entering the transfer. I mean, Kyle McCord wasn't even on Ohio State's roster when they played that game. That's insane.
Right. That is insane. And that's what I'm saying. Transfer portal, NIL, playoffs, like bowl season. It was such a simple thing. We're just going to get together and play a football game. The fans will like it. But hey, we'll move on to the new era. We're in the new era of Survivor. We're going to be in the new era of college football next season.
We are. The new era of the specialist, where we have the Phil
and Will show. Again, new era.
Cool looking
episode of Phil and Will show in the books. Episode 1, first one ever. It might be the last. Maybe no one liked it.
This already got better ratings than anything else I've ever done. So that's good. So we appreciate you all listening. I'll kind of start throwing out some stuff here so that people can get ready kind of for what's coming up, what you might have missed. We do have patreon.com/the specialist. That's a great place to go if you're looking for additional content. If you're a Survivor fan, it's the place to be. We have content coming out weekly for everybody, multiple episodes a week for most of our tiers. We have a Discord. If you want to join the Discord, it's for the lowest tier patrons. You can get in there. You can talk sports, especially since we're going to start doing this podcast. I feel like people will get more into doing podcasts and things like that. We also do a Q&A for the $5 tier, so we'll be doing that twice a month. If you have questions for Will now that he's back, throw them in the chat here even, because you might be able to get some answers to those questions. The first episode of the Q&A will be live on YouTube, and then it will also be over at so it'll be on YouTube and it will be over on Patreon. In addition, on Sunday, really excited, we're joining forces with Russell Muscle TV, doing a little collaboration for Second Chances 2. And we're going to be talking about the new era women on Sunday, and we're going to be coming up with a list of 10. It's going to be really, really fun, and I can't wait to dive into that one. That's going to be our big Survivor off-season content coming up, and that'll be going from that Sunday all the way up to the premiere of Survivor season 46. We might have a tell-all in the future. I'm not going to say anything right now, but there might be actually the potential for that. But if you're looking around, we got the cinema specialist doing our movie stuff. We've been putting out the Patreon previews all over the place. And we're just having fun with it. This is going to be a fun year. We're going to be doing the Traitors coming up. It's really exciting. Let us know what other things you might want to hear us talk about on this show. If there's something big that happens next week, tweet at us at Survivor Specialist, SPCLSTS. There's no vowels in specialist. It doesn't fit.
Oh, I was gonna say you spelled that.
Yeah,
very correctly.
Yeah, there's no vowels because it wouldn't fit. But go follow us over there. Like the video here. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. And yeah, I'm excited to keep going. Jake T, $4.99 donation, new era ! Can't wait. Adam LZS, will there be specific days for sports talk? I feel like the sports talk will probably be in here for the time being, just because we're kind of
Phil and Will show every Thursday for the most part.
That's the goal. There might be some Fridays now that the Traitors is actually going to be on Thursdays.
Oh,
but
yeah.
We'll have to figure that out.
Man,
I wasn't expecting it to be on Thursdays.
Yeah, we whiffed that one. And Wednesday's Survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about it if you're the Traitors.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But tune in, follow us. You'll be able to see when we're going to do it. We're putting stuff out early now on the channel so that you can actually prepare for when it's going to be coming out. But I'm really enjoying it. I hope you all are as well. This was a fun conversation. I can't believe it. We had fun talking about things that frustrate me. We still had fun.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you all.
Thanks for tuning in.
See you next week.
Episode 1 over.
Done.